Hi everyone. Today we are going to go through the feasibility study and what is required, what information is required of that. So there'll be a form on the website to download that you can fill out, or you can get in touch with us to get the information. So just to go through that and why we need the information that we need. So the first thing is name, address, phone number and email, obviously, just so we have the contact details for you, and going forward things can happen quite quickly in the process, so we do need to be able to get hold of everyone. The second point is obviously the site address itself. It can often be different from where your residential address is. So if there are issues where your site is just in the middle of nowhere, then a Google Map link is great, or some GPS coordinates, or something of that ilk that we can really pinpoint exactly where the land is, because often then we can look at satellite imagery and get quite a good idea of the site and what's around about it. It helps us assess the planning conditions. Second point is obviously which microhome you're interested in. There'll be another video on customizing a microhome coming out later on, so if that's what you're thinking, then it's probably best to watch that video. Next is your funding and whether funding's already in place for the building. This isn't for our own interest, it's because it can affect the process. So if you are borrowing money to build the house, it might need things like architect certificates, it might need build zone insurances. There's all sorts of other mechanisms that might be required by the lenders to essentially underwrite the building. So that's something to mention. If you've got any issues there, please fill that in. Next, name your local authority. If you know it at all, it's helpful for us. To follow on from that is if you're aware of any planning issues on your site, so historical issues where planning's been objected, issues where planning's been approved, even historical issues that neighbours have experienced. It's all helpful to get that picture in place for us and understand whether we can get it through planning for you. Following on from the site issues, vehicle access and site levels is another thing. It's useful just to have a description of, we need site access for driveways and things like that, but also to offload the building. The site levels are helpful for us just to get a general understanding of. Part of the process includes for a topographic survey, so that'll be carried out anyway, but just for us at these early stages, it's helpful to get a note to understand if there's a general slope in one direction or something like that. We do have to provide ramped access to the front door, so that's actually the biggest issue. It's not the foundations, it's more ensuring the ramp is sufficient, because it's got a maximum rise it can have. Just to follow on, it's worth knowing about any significant trees on site and any neighbour related issues. We see quite a lot of issues over the years with difficult neighbours and where issues have arisen with neighbours, so it's just helpful if you can make us aware of issues like that, because it can cause problems in the process. The other sort of thing is any other information to confirm ownership of your site. We need to confirm ownership of the site in the planning process. So if you have a deed plan or something like that, we have to understand your exact boundary of ownership and put that into the council. So anything that communicates that, whether it's a map you've drawn over yourself or a deed plan, is ideal. I think following on from that, there's a range of other sort of servicing issues that we need to get a handle on for you as well. So I think the biggest one for most people is going to be drainage in that, especially if you're dealing with a new site that maybe doesn't have mains drainage on it already. So that's something that we have to you look at on a site-by-site basis, that your proposal for drainage has to go in with your planning application. So it's something that has to be addressed quite early on in the process. So if you have any information about drainage on your site, or even what you think might be the case, we can take that and get drawings to double check that, but it's just good to highlight any issues that you know of. So that's kind of water leaving the building. Then services going into the building, we need to look at water supply, electric supply. Are there any fire hydrants and things like that locally to the building? Telephone as well is something that's an issue, especially for broadband connections and stuff like that. So that's a kind of broad summary of the issues that we need for the feasibility study. With all that information, there is there's enough information there for us to do quite a comprehensive feasibility study and give you an understanding of how likely your project is to go through planning approval process. There inevitably will be some where we have to say no, we can't get that, that's the nature of it. But there'll be others that pass through fine. So there's another video due out on how to select the site, which will also touch upon planning issues and how to mitigate them through choosing the right site. So I think if that's the situation you're in, I would suggest looking out for that video. Thank you.